Hello everyone, I am Tacit, and today I'm going to be going over the Gems of War event objectives for the Solid Snakes event, in which the Stone Viper is added to the game. So we have a few things going on this week before we have the last week of the season pass, so let's start getting into all of them. As far as the troop itself, it is actually pretty good for once, not only the arcane that it comes with, but the troop itself. It's an interesting category, Swift. Swift is a 75% mana start, of course. This is similar to Empower, but isn't Empower. But one thing to consider with a lot of Swift troops is a good majority of them, particularly the ones at this lower level range like this, or lower mana cost like this, under enchant circumstances, basically have a turn to Empower. So if you're in a game mode where you're starting with enchant, the second turn, you will almost guarantee have full mana unless it's like a legend or a mythic, but anything like epic below and generally will have enough mana off enchant that 75% will be a turn 2 empower instead of a turn 1 empower, which gives it quite a bit of viability in a lot of those side modes, including our world event this week. So really handy for that. As a 50% score reduction, ends up creating 5 yellow gems, and it converts all yellow to brown. So kind of like a standard converter, except it gets to do a little bit extra. The only slightly bad thing about this is it could potentially mana block, meaning that you might want to put it further back onto your team if you're going to be doing it that way. You can still use it further up if you want, however, of course those brown mana will go back into itself, which is both a good thing and a bad thing. A good thing because you'll be able to recast it soon after, or immediately after, but a bad thing because you're also blocking basically 12 brown mana in that circumstance. It's likely going to be used pretty similarly to Harpy Mage if you do end up using it. Harpy Mage ends up exploding pretty much the entire board and creating a brown storm. Generally, but normally you use her like all the way in the back of your team, so she isn't mana blocking anything, like all the way in 4th slot, 3rd slot, very rarely 2nd. But this is probably not going to be used much, mostly due to her existing. It is normally better to get a mass explosion and then a brown storm like she does than to do this, as it has no storm activated. If you're going to be using this, you're probably using it a little bit more so for its 50% score reduction specifically, or some of the synergy that it can have. For example, then again, never mind. You wouldn't even be able to get value from the 50% mana star off a construct, though it would still be able to be used in a construct team, in that you can use it with like the brown spam off of Chalcedony and things like that, so definitely still usable. It's potentially a really good replacement too in a double Chalcedony team. You could end up replacing one of them with a Stone Viper, so overall it's definitely a usable troop, though very niche as far as where you use it, and it's almost primarily only going to be used in game modes where you have access to enchant on turn 1, so that it can conveniently get its full mana. That's basically a rundown on that. Overall, not the best glory troop we've gotten this year, but definitely a very usable one at that. Speaking about troops, of course, event queue drop table for this week is Miss of Scales, and there's quite a lot here. Overall, for the most part though, nothing's really worth it, and when I say a lot, I mean it is a 27-star kingdom now, technically 26. Mostly because generally you're not going to get a kingdom till 18, just because the resources to get it to 18 are way too expensive. So most people aren't going to be doing this for a good majority of kingdoms, unless like a magic based one or something similar, where they're trying to get it closer to 20. But yeah, for the most part, most kingdoms, if not every kingdom, is essentially locked at 26 for quite some time. Even if they have access to 27, is I think it's like the third, somewhere around there, kingdom that technically can 27, it is generally not advised to, as the amount of resources it costs is just very high. But anyways, as far as the troops, what's in event key drop table, everything you see here except for 6 things is in the drop table. Medusa, which we will be going over tonight. She is actually available in the bigger paid pass. She'll be in a normal paid pass next Monday. You'll be able to get her, and free to play will get her either from Soulforge or event keys in a couple months from now. But yeah, she's technically accessible as of today, which is why she's there. But she's not in event key drop table. The world is not in an event key drop table, and the 4 dark pit troops are not in the event key drop table. So those 6, the 2 from the season pass right now, and obviously all the ones from the faction. So what does that leave? Not much. There's not too much good in the kingdom. Oddly enough, one of the better things in the entire kingdom is the Cobra that just came out today, oddly enough, wherever he is. Where is that guy? Let's see. He is in here somewhere. There he is. But yeah, this is one of the better things, so you can already get that off of Glory. Marilith's a good mana accumulator, but compared to Thrall, compared to like Angry Mob, it is very situationally used. It does have the benefit of having a link, so if you spam 2 or 3 of them, you can get some pretty good value. But beyond that, it doesn't tend to get used too often, just because there's a lot of things in that category, many of which are already better than it. So unless you're restricted and have to use it, you don't tend to use it compared to some other better options, though it is still really good. Aside from that, the only other really gimmicky thing that you might try going for is potentially Oriali Mythic. She's the best poisoner in the game, however, There's normally better ways to do this. You only really need that good of a poisoner if you're using like a Scorpius build, because he needs the enemy to be poisoned in order to insta-kill, and then you go for insta-poison, double kill, and then you just win out the match. That's a very situational build, and overall not really used much in the current state of the game, though still can be for Explore 12 and a few other things, particularly in locations that don't have immune to poison. But overall, pretty underwhelming drop table, definitely one that you could skip unless you're looking to get Kingdom Stars, as nothing here is a must-have, and there's generally alternatives in the game. Like, for example, even her, you could just run Web Spinner, and you're probably going to have a pretty similar time, though it is a little bit slower in some teams, though it's also a lot quicker in other teams. So most of this stuff has alternatives, like there's better stunners out there, there's better true damage out there for something like Basilisk. There just generally isn't much you could do with it. I guess maybe Venoxia has a little bit of synergy with some really green-blue heavy builds, but generally you want to be creating one color, not two, and there are things that can normally mana accumulate like that better. So overall, pretty skippable week unless you're looking to get some of the 26 stars that Mrs. Skills has, but otherwise not really worth going for. So next up on all of our things, we have the World Event. Really standard World Event for once, which is really nice. Also, I don't think I got it yet. However, yes, there's a mirror here. Unfortunately, this weapon is really bad, and you're basically never going to use it. However, there's a weapon here. This doesn't always happen, but occasionally for 500 gems, you can get a weapon during the World Event. It's also available in the Soul Forge if you happen to not really do much for World Events, or you don't really buy any tiers, and you don't want to spend the 500 gems and save it for something else. Though we do have 150 gems or something in the daily thingy, so it's already like 1/3 the amount for it. However, yeah, Mirror Shield, it's pretty underwhelming, but occasionally we get a weapon like this, and it's good just to get it while it's a little bit cheaper compared to getting in Soul Forge at a later time. Even in Soul Forge, if you're getting it with those material, it's slightly cheaper than usual. And what I was mentioning with that is we actually have a daily today on Adventure Board. Well, two of them. We have the one for 100 gems, the one for 15, and then our daily for 20, so it's already 135 to cover towards it, so if you want to do it for that purpose. Otherwise, it's also in Soul Forge. But anyways, with that being said, it's just Rarity order, very straightforward. We have Spell Increase, as you would normally expect for a mode like this. Obviously, Stone Viper, building our team around that. Bargus, probably the next best option. I think for the higher Rarity team, I actually double up on Bargus instead of even going Stone Viper and use something else as my mana accumulation option instead of Stone Viper. Also, if you don't want to use Stone Viper as a tank, as I mentioned earlier, you can use it further back. You could use like your hero in the tank and, you know, just kind of do it like that and use a different hero class. I'm particularly going down the Archmage's route for this one, with the Griffin defeated back on yellow, just so it has yellow going, and just kind of spamming that into the other thing for the cheaper team here. But you could kind of do it however you want, depending on what your goal really is for the team. But yeah, there's a decent selection as far as what we have. A lot of damage output. We also have Black Beast, but unfortunately don't have extra skull damage. I would still want to do a Black Beast otherwise. It's a really fun troop that very rarely gets to be used, but it's actually kind of insanely good. It's almost better, actually in many cases is better than the Mythic variant of him, oddly enough, which is kind of funny, mostly because he creates skulls. But anyways, yeah, just sticking with the higher damage sort of stuff, like just Willow, AoE off of weapon. Bargus is going to be like your main carry in a lot of these, mostly because of Fairy Fire, which is 50% extra. It also has Explode at start of battle for even more mana accumulation just to get things rolling, so pretty strong. And a lot of cases, you're probably actually going to get full mana on Stone Viper between potion effects that you bought getting the tier 4 weapon, as well as just the explosion that you might have for your 1 to 2 Bargus on your team. So be really easy to go get it quickly. It's actually one of the reasons I wanted to put in first slot, is like most cases with a 75% start, meaning it only needs 3 mana, it's probably going to get all of its mana from the explosion, so you can just immediately cast it on turn 1. So it's basically empowered in that situation rather than not being empowered. So that's one of the other justifications for having it first slot, though you can easily do it for second turn empower and last if you so choose. Really just depends more so on preference of how to use it. But anyways, it's just Rarity order. Just don't take the Bone Naga room when you're taking the correct room. Take the Mythic room whenever you see it. Don't take the Bone Naga room unless you're forced into it, and that's all you have to do. All the legends have the same amount of value, so just take them. If you see the Mythic, take that. Just don't take Bone Naga unless every single room is a Bone Naga. And overall, pretty much as straightforward of a world event as we ever have. Anyways, we have quite a few things going on this week. This Tuesday, we have ourselves the Dark Pits faction. Wednesday, we have ourselves the International Cat Day pet. This is cosmetic, but it gives you a cute little cat. Looks like a cat mage this time around, which is kind of adorable. Thursday, we have two things kind of going on. One is the Assassin class, you know, the standard kind of event class. However, there is a slightly more interesting thing. If you have not skipped any tiers, and this includes the glitch where we got 3 less, this will still happen on Thursday, because it doesn't actually affect it since it happens at the same time regardless due to it how it falls, because regardless it would be at 49 or 48, so getting 2 would always get there. But anyways, this Thursday, Zenith, if you did not buy any extra tiers with gems or money, and you bought the paid pass, you'll be able to get Zenith this Thursday. Zenith is arguably the strongest thing in all of Hellcrack. It is going to be pretty insane. It does two things very, very well. It's going to be one of the best Doom Skull setters in the game, particularly for a non-mythic, as well as creating an Evil Gargoyle gem when matching 4 or more gems. This has a pretty interesting synergy off of his boost ratio for 2 reasons. One is he's going to create 1 billion Doom Skulls, and those Doom Skulls matching will also create more Evil Gems, or Evil Gargoyles, which will result into more Doom Skulls. However, it's basically going to be a skull-based Essence of Evil. It's not going to be as consistent as Essence of Evil, obviously not as many mana accumulation either, because even though Doom Skulls do explode, like half the board is going to be like Doom Skulls and Gargoyles, so you're not getting as much mana comparatively. However, it's going to be a slightly less consistent but full AoE Essence of Evil, where you get to place every negative stats effect onto the enemy, obviously one at a time, and it is possible that you get the same one. Like for example, if you have 3 Evil Gargoyle gems, there is a chance you get really unlucky and 2 of them hit poison, and the only case where overlapping like that would be good is if it was bleed, but overall it could be unlucky, and it's very unlikely you'll get literally every single stats effect, but it definitely will apply a lot of them to the enemy. And having double Zenith, which won't be possible this Thursday, but into the future it will, you'll be able to get some pretty interesting things as well, because having double of them, you're going to be creating 2 per extra turn. So let's say you hit like 2 extra skull turns. You just created 4 Evil Gargoyle gems. 4 Evil Gargoyle gems off his ability is a 17 Doom Skull cast for 15 mana. That is not bad at all. And you get to pretty much just keep doing that over and over again. Not flawlessly, obviously you'll need a good mana accumulator to hold it down and something to tank for the situations like Elementalist or something. Or actually, probably the Construct Hero class realistically to get 50% mana start on it, because you probably won't be able to go Elementalist in that particular situation just to get things rolling quicker, but has a lot of potential to be really good, and definitely the strongest thing that we have throughout the week. Speaking of Thursday, Thursday's also the last day to pick up the Mythic if you are looking to still get that. He's available. We just covered a video on it yesterday, actually. A little bit late, though. We also covered it on the stream on Friday as soon as it launched. Actually, we did a key opening, took 3,200 event keys. One thing to keep in mind, it is not in event key drop table right now. It is in Glory Gem Guild and VIP chests, but only Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, which is now over, was it in event keys. It will, however, so here's the thing on this. So let's do the rundown on this Mythic real quick. So last weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, it was available in event keys, and that's when we got it for 3,200 event keys on Friday. But that is now over. You cannot get it for event keys at this current week. As we went over the Mr. Scales thing earlier was what's in event keys. However, it is available in Glory Gem Guild and VIP chests still for the rest of this week until the end of Thursday, so basically Friday reset time. However, if you do still want to get it in event keys, next week is also the final Hellcrag event that we'll be getting for like probably half a year. So you still have one last chance to get Tourmaline in event keys all next week. Not this week, but all of next week, 1 week from now. So if you're still looking to get in event keys, you can. And if you're looking to get in Glory Gem Guild and VIP chests, you have until the end of Thursday to do so. It's a pretty underwhelming Mythic, but if you're getting it for completion's sake and the fact it's the only Mythic from the Kingdom, maybe worth considering. However, keep in mind it is not a construct, which is a little underwhelming, given that's basically a pure construct Kingdom. But anyways, that's everything happening on Thursday then. Is that Thursday or Friday? I think it's Friday, actually. Yeah, Friday we get the final day of... So now, things on Friday. So on Friday we have an invasion event. It's going to be an Urska Invasions. But also on Friday, we have the final day of... Why can I not remember where on earth it is? Legends Reborn. So Legends Reborn, we'll have this one in 1 day, 21 hours, and 7 minutes. And then that makes the last one appear on Friday, if I'm not mistaken then, which will allow you to finally max out the final pet tier. So if you haven't finished up anything with this, I'm pretty sure most people have the green kills by now, but any progress you want to make on this, it does end at the end of this week. So whatever progress you want to make, do make sure to do so. It doesn't actually have an end timer anywhere here, oddly enough, but it does end at the end of this week, all the way at next Monday reset, a week from now. So do be mindful of that if you're still looking for any of the pets, the free ones, the gem one, or the other free one, which you do from doing the quest lines. Of course, the money one too, though it is a little bit steep, and I would probably advise against it, because to our understanding, this pet will actually be in the drop table in like a week from now. Like literally 1 week from today, next Monday, it'll already be in a drop table. Obviously the chance of your guild specifically finding it is absurdly rare with how the pet system currently works, but to our understanding, like literally 1 week from now, you could just log in and be like, oh, our guild got whatever this thing is called. Does it have a name? The Yasmin's Petal. But yeah, as of a week from now, it should be in drop table immediately. So there's that. Anyways, is that most of the things? Let's go and start getting into the Soulforge. So as far as the Soulforge, I actually didn't even look at it yesterday. Let's see. Captain McCall is always funny. His 50% rogue start. This is only relevant if you already have Mother of Darkness. I generally don't advise going out of your way to craft Legends. However, one reason to bring him up is he's used for the Rogue Spider team. Pretty much the only pure rogue team that can really be used. It's used with Night Spider, it's used with Mother of Darkness, him, and then Rogue hero class with with any Corsair hero class with any kind of utility weapon, like for mana accumulation, something similar. As far as things that are actually good to get as far as the Mythic category is concerned, there are 2 of them this week, and it is... Is there another one here? Wait. Ares. Oh, that's that one useless one. Isn't this the first time Ares been around? Maybe it's the second time. It's pretty useless, so you can ignore it. It is a construct, but it's not a good construct. We really need a good construct mythic add to the game, other than Lord of Slaughter. We need another one. Anyways, there's 2 things worth crafting this week. As far as mythics are concerned, Mistralis and Possessed King. Personally, if I was to go for one or the other, I would say Mistralis. Neither of them are a must-have, but they're utility troops that are used decently often. I'm not as fan of Possessed King, but is among one of the other better ones. They're both pretty much S tier as far as mythics are concerned, but they're both situationally used depending on the circumstance. Mistralis is the most relevant thing, 2 of them. She is one of only a few extra turn mythics in the entire game, and has one of the highest damage outputs of them, not counting insta-kill Iron Gut. But if you don't count as insta-kill, she has, as far as like actual physical damage, she technically, or actually does have the highest. As long as she hits, sometimes she can hit only once or twice, but she's hitting 3 or 4 times. She's getting a really solid amount. But one of the main things that makes her actually good is the jumble, combined with the extra turn, so you get to reset the board. It is a little bit of a high mana cost jumble at 25, but you're also getting a lot of damage pressure with it. It's a great way to use excess of yellow, blue, or brown, so if you have a team that's creating a lot of one of these 3 colors, it's a great way to soak it up and do it for damage. And you normally use it on brown teams. A main reason for this, if you're looking to use it on yellow or blue, you're normally using Rope Dart on your team, hero with Rope Dart. However, there is an equivalence to that on hero for brown, so you normally just run this. So if you're ever doing like a Chastadani team that's getting a lot of excess brown, or literally any team that you have like way too much brown on, you'll normally put a Mistralis there. Otherwise, most other situations, you tend to go Rope Dart, as Rope Dart is a bit better than Mistralis in most circumstances. One other thing that's really good on her is she's the best enchanter in the game. She enchants your entire team for a single extra turn. This gives you 2 mana per turn, so even if she gets disabled with freeze, which is definitely a really hard counter to her, the team still is able to get mana slowly over time, as long as they don't spell you or curse you or anything like that. You're still going to be getting that 2 mana tick every single turn, so you'll still be able to accumulate some amount of mana. This also gives you a lot of extra mana overall if your team hasn't started looping yet, or to get them going, especially if it's a higher mana cost overall, so it's pretty good. It can also be used on enchant boost ratio teams, which are a little bit rarer, but she's definitely used on them in those circumstances. Next one is Possessed King. He's most noteworthy used in extremely heavy Doomskull related teams. Oddly enough, would also be really good synergy with the Zenith that's coming out this Thursday technically, so you could do a Zenith synergy with it. One really big benefit of using this with a Doomskull creator, which is one of his more useful purposes, is he's exploding 2 gems. And this 2 gem explode can normally chain every Doomskull on the board. So let's say you end up doing a Doomskull cast, and yeah, you get some connected, but it doesn't connect all of the Doomskulls on the board. What you can end up doing is having the 1 extra turn that you end up taking from that, get 2 additional explosions, and those 2 additional explosions are probably going to help clear the entire board. Even though it's only 2 explodes, if you're doing 2 explodes next to a bunch of Doomskulls, they're likely going to chain together. And this, in a lot of circumstances, when doing a Doomskull spammer, will allow you to more consistently clear the entire board, which is really good when combined with another storm that feeds into your Doomskull creator. In case of Zenith, that'd be like a red or brown and stuff like that. I mean, a red or purple, I mean. But overall, it has a lot of potential. Gets a lot of mana accumulation. Actually, oddly enough, the best transform in the game. It has 3 independent 20% chances, making it the only thing that can triple transform. Actually, if I think about it, isn't it the only thing that can double transform as well? Not counting if you land like 4 lycanthropy or something off of something else. But realistically, as far as the actual transform mechanic, it is the only thing in the game with triple transform. It's very unlikely you'll hit it, though it can. And it can multi-transform the same thing. And this is somewhat relevant because it halves the level every single time you transform. This was a new mechanic added several years ago. Like 3-4 years ago, and it makes him quite a bit stronger. Let's say, for example, the enemy's level 500. If you triple transform it, and the first transform will bring it to 250, the second one will bring it to 125, and the one after that will bring it to what, like 67? Yeah, 67, I think it rounds down. But yeah. Overall, definitely a great utility troop, mostly used for his mana accumulation. Like if you're using him, 95% of the reasons for his final trait, whereas Mistralis is used for just about everything, though occasionally he can get his transform off. But anyways, that's the rundown. Both good options depending on if you want either. Aside from that, the shield is here, but you can get that for 500 gems. It is cheaper this week, so if you compare it to like a normal legendary weapon, you can see it has these costs. However, it has 50% less cost. So if you don't want to spend gems on it, you can get it for 50% cheaper this week in Soulforge. So definitely make sure you have it by the end of this week. It's a pretty useless weapon, but it's cheaper to get now than it will be in the future. So either 500 gems or do it through here. I would advise doing the 500 gem method, but you can also get it in Soulforge. Aside from that, nothing really too good here unless you're just looking for some kind of generic like mana accumulation one based on like Nagas or something. Like this one does a bunch of red and green based on Nagas. But there's another one based on Missa Scales. And yeah, neither of them are like that meta in the current state of the game. Of course, they could be as more troops come into the game. Maybe one of these are good ones, Medusa. I haven't actually messed with Medusa yet because we don't have it yet. However, one of these, like Medusa's Tome, might actually be good with a Medusa team, potentially, if they feed mana well into her. So we'll have to see with that. I'm not actually quite sure on that at this current moment in time, but it might have some decent synergy with that. So you might want to get it for that purpose if you're picking up a Medusa this week or next week. Or make sure to preemptively get it for next week, of course, because if you're not getting Medusa until the standard pass in the campaign thingy, because super paid pass gets it today, but normal paid pass gets it 1 week from today. So do be mindful if you are getting a Medusa and you do want to mess with either of those two weapons, make sure to get it before the end of this week, because if you got the normal paid pass, you won't actually get access to, you won't have those two weapons in the Soul Forge, so you have to get them this week prior to the Medusa. So do make sure to get them if you want to mess around with them in Medusa. So do make sure to do that if you are planning to. Anyways, let's go and show a bunch of teams. So of course all teams per usual will be in the description below. Speaking of Rarity, gosh, why on earth you... Oh, I know why. I'm pretty sure the kill objective for one of the tasks is kill Rarity. And they set 2 Rarity. Well, thank you. I already have a 2 Rarity set up. How perfect is that? But yeah, that's probably why they have the team. I was wondering, like, well, that's such a strange team. But it's probably because one of the objectives is kill yellow and one of the other objectives is kill Rarity. And they did both. Anyways, so as far as World Event, this is the more expensive team, though you could make this even more expensive with like the Mythic. You can still use the Cobra too if you wanted to in the back. I personally went for double Bargus, mostly for damage pressure, especially if you're getting to the later ranges to have a little bit more damage. Also gets one more explosion to start a battle. His Fairy Fire is going to be really useful, double placing both a Fairy Fire and a damage poke. Also burns, but that's pretty irrelevant in this team comp. Willow's mostly just for an AoE option to hit everything. We have spell damage, so being able to hit for AoE off of this, Black Manacle, Dawnbringer, whatever. Actually, you can't use Dawnbringer, but any brown weapon that hits all enemies, you can end up doing that. Here I'm actually using the new book that we got last weekend. So Obsidian Librum is among one of the most versatile mana accumulating weapons we've ever gotten. It's not the best one in every circumstance, but there is almost no circumstance where it couldn't be useful. It's just situationally not the best weapon in every circumstance. But if you're just looking for something to plop somewhere, this is a really good plop weapon, kind of like Black Manacle and a few others like that, where almost every team composition would benefit from it for the most part. And this one is very similar to that, even more so than almost any other weapon. It just has a generic explode the entire board, as long as it's not webbed, and then summons an Obsidian Depths troop. And most of the Obsidian Depths troops are pretty tanky. Half of them, 2 or 3 of them, have 50% score reduction, so you're going to have a decent amount of bulk. And well, a couple of them aren't that good, particularly the ultra rare, I believe it was. The rest of them are at least average or slightly above average, so you're not getting horrible summons. And most of them are pretty tanky, which is generally where a book is summoning anyways, or any summon is normally summoning in the first slot, which in this case would replace out our first Bargus, which would make our team a random Obsidian troop, Willow, the book, and Bargus as our main team. And yeah, that's pretty much the idea for this one. Next we have the lower one, which you already saw on the other page. This ends up using the Stone Viper mechanic. Of course, this came out this week, literally today. It has 75% mana start. There are 2 ways to use this. You can use this in last slot or near your back and have it enchant to full mana on turn 2. Or in the case of this team, we're using it for its 50% score reduction, as well as the explosion to the start of battle. You're going to get 4 of them. You get an additional 1 off of Bargus. This will end up, actually, technically you get 8. No, not in this mode, never mind. It stacks for the other mode, but not for this one, because there's only 4. It's not a faction. Never mind. But you'll get a 4 explosion plus 1, so 5 explosion at the start of battle. And that 5 explosion will likely give it 3 mana, in which case you can turn 1 Stone Viper. So even though it doesn't say Empower, you'll effectively have Empower. Then you cast that. Griffin Knight just gives you your yellow back, so you can go into there again. You're probably getting all of its mana back anyway, so you can double cast that to keep doing your mana. Bargus doing what it did in the other team, and Black Manacle here just as your AoE option. Really accessible, really cheap, you just get it from leveling. And everything here is a nice epic or below rarity. I think the hardest thing to get is actually a Bargus as far as anything there. And you can always just use a different damage source. It's just a nice one to have. Next, we have a pretty standard faction team. You can use any weapon that doesn't block. Guards, Avatar, Surquite, and Hadley. It is a brown-green restriction, though your weapon can be anything. Though in this case, we did happen to go a green weapon. You can use any colored weapon. Just make sure not to block. But you can also run Rowan build. I just figured we show a Guards, Avatar team again. I think we have a Rowan build right here. Yeah. So here's the Rowan version of the exact same team. Just Urskea Shield to Rowan. Unfortunately, we can't have mana start it based on the brown-green restriction for the Dark Pits. However, we can still double Leprechaun. We have Urskea Shield here if you want to go run it all the way to 500. Generally, you only run this for the first 100 or so, and you can change your weapon out accordingly for like Black Manacle or something similar if you want to go down that route. But you can also bring it deeper if you so choose or don't have any other options. For the deeper end, kind of just a Hiking Iron Gut team. For the fun of it, I figured I'd put a Jezebel here. I don't normally show it with this, but one of the gimmicks of this is she does attack damage based on one of your allies' attack, and you can synergize that into Hiking Iron Gut. I do have Elementals here, which will be applying Entangle, which will get slightly in the way of Hiking Iron Gut, but if you want, you can still put Geomancer there, you could put any other thing there. I just did that as it would be a little bit safer, and more people probably have it upgraded, but if you're still looking for something else to start getting upgraded, you can just replace this out with any Burial and Brown hero class that you haven't already maxed, and it'd be perfectly fine. Next we have Pure Faction. So Pure Faction almost uses every troop. You do double up on Hex Rat. You could even triple up on it if you really want to. You normally want to use Sledge Paw just to not die. It's mostly to hold down the line. You actually don't cast him ever. You should basically never cast this thing's ability. He's going to be mana blocking you, and you don't want him to constantly keep casting. So even though he can cast, you just simply don't. Even though he's in first slot, he's just here simply to tank. He's 25% score reduction, which isn't a lot, but compared to anything else in this faction, it's good enough. And he recovers 6 life at the start of every single turn, so ideally he won't end up dying because he'll just keep getting the regen there. It's not a lot of regen, but hopefully it's enough regen in most situations. Lastly, we have the Explode here. Or not lastly, but we have a bunch of Explosion. This is a bunch of mana accumulation, and also does some Poison and Disease, though you're mostly looking for the mana accumulation, as that's the whole reason why he's on the team. He uses completely unique colors, and it's mostly just to get Hex Rat mana, as that's the main thing you're trying to do, is spam Hex Rat until you win. He deals a bunch of damage to all enemies below them, so basically you just target the first slot and just keep getting it down on the entire team. Also place a Death Mark, or deals double damage, and Death Marks them if they happen to be cursed. Unfortunately, this team doesn't really have a good way to curse. You can curse off a Sledge Paw cast. However, you generally don't want to be casting him unless you need it as like a last resort or some kind of really good board control, like a 4x5x Cascade kind of thing. But you can end up doing that, get your curse and get double damage on that first slot. Very situationally used, but let's say, for example, you're on like the final fight, they're really bulky, you want to really kill out the first slot. You can kind of do that because then you start getting double damage, you cast down your double Hex Rat, and you go from there because you'll get double damage due to the curse on it, and you also get Death Mark if that happens to kill. So it can sometimes be used, but overall, you're mostly just spamming Hex Rat until you win, with Plague Rat feeding the team, and the first slot just tanking. Next we have Assassin Hero class. Just any number of things you can run for this. This just happens to use triple Marilith into Black Manacle, Archmages for the mana accumulation, though you can use something tankier, and but if you're doing the free battles, you probably don't need anything tankier. And we're just using extra Fire Link. With the 3 Fire Links, this allows her to 2-turn to full mana off of not even needing Surge. Even if you get no Surge, she will still 2-turn to full mana. And that's pretty much the whole premise here. Marilith just keeps going up. There's a little bit of AoE to assist your other AoE, so you could just chip it down if Black Manacle didn't already finish, plus you'll get a bunch of mana by clearing out pretty much the entire board. So that's the premise there, and just keep spamming that until you win. And lastly, as far as stuff that's going on, we do have a Friday invasion. I believe we're getting a new weapon as well. I do not recall what that weapon is off the top of my head. However, we do have this going on. As far as what you want to run, it's in standard invasion, so normally you just want to double up on the invasion troop, put some mana accumulation behind it. In this case, I'm using their scale weapon, though you can use any mana accumulating weapon that you're allowed to use, would be perfectly fine. Just happen to be using this. And then we just have our skill out here for 50% mana start. Due to this, I am using the Sentinel hero class as well. It's a good time to get it leveled if you want to go run it for the event, and you also get 50% mana start on it, so how's that going for it? But anyways, guys, that's all the events that we have going on this week. If you still have any other questions, feel free to leave in the comment section below. All the teams we just went over are also in the description if you want to copy paste them for any of the events that we have going on. I will catch you guys later. Best of luck with everything, and thank you so much for watching. Goodbye, everyone.